right, guys. So here we are, another podcast with the lovely Ashley Cotwalser. Yes, we're here.
We're here. We're there. We're everywhere. New
first,
shirt.
First off, can we go into the attire today?
Yeah, of course.
Can we go into the attire? Because we got this from Angels. Made this for me for my birthday.
Competition bikinis.
It is a American flag, which is what I'm all about, and in bikini posing.
Yeah.
It's all bikini girls posed. Isn't that cool?
That is the coolest thing.
They think I'm a bodybuilder. It's like a double X.
Oh, you feel that one day.
I know.
When you grow up one day.
I felt pretty good until I put this shirt on. I was like, that was small. Mm-hmm. This would be a nighttime shirt. Take it home, nighttime shirt.
Definitely.
But cool. But look at this.
The hat.
The bikini and the brain hat. That is pretty cool. I should make some of those. That's actually pretty cool.
It is.
And you got the matching green and blue attire.
Yeah,
look at you.
Of course. Trying to do it up.
You went all out.
Trying. I try. But yeah, Angel competition bikinis. They know how to dress us, right? So thank you for that.
I think so. So anyway, podcast episode for today. What do we got?
Post-show attitude.
I feel like there should have been more.
I feel like you're supposed to be like, oh.
Wow, yeah. All right. Wow. And do over now. Post you at. Whoa, cool.
Wow. I was waiting for this. Wow. Here we go.
So we are talking about the post-show attitude. And, you know what? Let's go into this awkward cups and stuff we have on the desk. I think we're going to start having stuff we just put on the desk. So,
yeah.
So Ashley has a good idea because Ashley is the queen of hot sauces. She got me a new hot sauce today.
I don't know about that.
I mean, you're pretty much...
condiments in general,
Condiments in general. Yes. We're going to do a YouTube taste testing of hot sauces, I think.
Yes.
So we have a new one. It's going to be exciting. But this is... go over the last few days. I was at Disneyland this weekend, and I love dogs.
How much is that?
It's $20.
Oh my God. $20. That's way too much.
Dude, $20. It's Disneyland. What are you going to do, All you do is get ripped off there. That's it. Like, you accept it. You accept that you're going to get ripped off.
It hurts a little bit.
Kimber got those little ears, and they're like these cheap ears, and everyone has them at Disneyland. It's like a headband. It's like $1.50 made in China probably, and they're like $35, $38 or something like that.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, I know, and everyone had them. I was like, man, whoever came up with that is like smart at marketing. This is from the movie Up. It says, I have just met you and I love you. That's the dog.
Ain't that cute thing?
That's how dogs are. And then this is because of you. This is your fault. So Ashley made fun of me having a plastic bag I brought to work with food in it the other day.
You're beyond that.
Yeah. And so she's like... So now I have this embarrassing bunny. It's a bunny lunchbox I got to bring to work.
I like it, though.
I feel like I'm 8 years old.
It's subtle, though. It's subtle. You can barely tell that the bunnies are there because of the coloring, but it's cute. It's really cute.
Yeah, so my weekend was getting in steps at Disneyland. I got in, the last time I checked, it was like 15,000. Then I forgot to check at night that day. But a lot of steps.
That is a lot. Did you counteract those steps with bad food?
You know what I did?
What'd you do?
On Disneyland Day, because I was so busy. When I get, maybe this is common for you too. When I get busy, I'm cool with eating less. Like on a diet day, because I just don't think about it. When I'm at home, it's like bored. Way harder for me to do a diet day.
Yep.
So like when I'm in the office, I don't mind doing just no carbs and just doing protein. So I was like, today's just going to be a diet day. I'm just going to have like a really high protein, like just low carb day. So I always hit my minimum proteins. So for me, my minimum proteins is like 200. And that's all I try to do that day, and then just walk around and burn some calories. I probably lost a couple pounds that day. I was just walking around. I mean, it was probably more than 15,000 because I was like at 5 or 6 when I checked. So
did you wear sunscreen?
I did. I sunscreened my face and my back. I'm so glad that you said that because they were making fun of me for being so sunscreened. Like
you're gonna be the one laughing in 20 years when you don't got the wrinkles. You know?
No, I'm all about the Brotox. I'm not getting wrinkles.
There you go.
Well, they asked me, how frozen do you want to be? I'm like, you ever seen the movie Frozen? that's how much. I want zero expressions when I laugh. Just a mannequin face the whole time. Like as I get older, that's how it's going to be my expression. This is me happy. This is me sad. Just frozen. LA Botoxed face.
Oh my gosh. Goodness.
So what did you do this weekend, Ash?
I went to Florida for a photo shoot for Angel Competition Bikinis. And it was a good time, I got to meet up with the other girls. Man, it's humid there. It's so crazy stepping off the plane from Vegas, dry heat to the humid. It just the air is so heavy and it's like everything is so moist, very moist. it feels like I'm wearing lotion all the time, and I'm not, like, except for sunscreen. I always wear sunscreen. But, you know, I'm just like, woo. But, yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had Jay Mannion shoot us for the new bikinis that they have. And, yeah, it was a good time. Good time.
Yeah, they have new line.
It's some posing, new patterns for their posing suits.
Oh.
But, yeah.
Yeah, it looked like a fun time. There's like 7 of you girls there.
More than that, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fun. Like, that's cool. Angels is so great at community stuff, you know?
They are.
Not to like, and then we're kind of plugging them, right? We don't mean to be plugging them. They just give us shirts and hats, and they had a great community stuff.
We gladly accept.
Yeah, they're just good people. I have a good time with Angels. Probably the best community-based, definitely the best community-based, bikini company for sure. So, yeah, they do a great job. So, anyway, back into our topic for today. Post-show attitude. What are we talking about when we talk about post-show attitude, Ash?
Well, you know, I think a lot of times you prepare yourself for the post-show diet. You prepare yourself for, even what you're going to have after the show as far as, ooh, what restaurant am I going to go to? But I don't think a lot of people even take into consideration their post-show attitude. Like, how are you going to feel after the show if it goes your way or if it doesn't go your way? And I think it's important to be prepared for that and kind of be aware of it sooner rather than later, because I feel like the attitude you have after show can greatly determine your path moving forward. You know, are you going to be a bad sport about things, bad attitude? And then those are the people that usually quit a few shows after. Or are you going to, use it as a learning lesson, move forward, regardless if you win or lose? So, I think it's an often overlooked factor for post-show is your attitude, We're all worried about the post-show cardio, post-show diet, but what about the attitude? Yeah. How are we going to feel?
And I think that having the right attitude post-show is going to lead to a lot of good habits after the show and adherence to the diet going forward, too. Because there's people who, it goes both ways, too. People who win will have the attitude of, oh, I won, I'm done, I can't believe I'm done, now I'm going to go eat and I can relax, right? That's another part of the attitude we should talk about. And then the other people are like, oh, I should have beat that girl. That girl I was way better than her. She had, noticeable body fat on her glutes that I didn't have or whatever, right? And I should have beat her. And then they have an attitude, I don't even know if I want to compete again. And they go through that month of kind of just eating and ignoring the sport and type of thing, So, I think that's a really good point that you bring up, because the only way, we talk about it sometimes, but we don't talk about, the only way to get better from show to show is to avoid transforming from show to show.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people do. And I think that the attitudes is what causes that. What are you trying to actually accomplish after the show? Are you trying to get better and get to the Olympia stage? Or are you trying to go backwards 5 steps and get back, start a prep again, all over again?
Mm-hmm. That is a bad cycle that a lot of competitors fall into. They go too hard after the show with the treats, and then their goal is just to even get back to the stage lean. And then at that point, you haven't made any improvements. You were just trying to get back to what you were. And, do that enough that you're going to look worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And your body's going to hate you for it. So, I mean, that definitely, the post-show attitude definitely can be a factor in how your body is reacting to the experience that you had, so it all goes into play, the diet, the attitude, how you handle things, it all goes into play. And I think a lot of times the post-show attitude, if it's bad, it's based on ego, honestly, sadly enough. But people that come in with a really, they think very highly of themselves, which is great, but their expectations are too high for a show, especially in their first show, and people really, I mean, maybe not even just the ego. I'm sure there are people that have that ego that they expect to win no matter what, but also the people that feel like they messed up really bad and are hard on themselves in that sense, right? So we have two different routes to go about that in a negative way. It's those people that have the ego that thought they should have won no matter what, and then the people that are beating themselves up about something they did wrong, something stupid that they did wrong, or or were unaware of until it was too late. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So not all the time it's because of the the ego and the what's it called, the people expect things. What is that?
I don't know, just the expectations.
The entitlement.
Oh, the
entitlement. So it's not just the entitled people that have a bad post-show experience when they don't win, but also the people that are maybe perfectionists and are hard on themselves.
Yeah. I would like to go into those perfectionist ones because I think that affects a lot of people too. Mm-hmm. People don't really understand that the pressure that people put on themselves can actually be a cause of a lot of the problems of their success. Like the stress, like if you see someone, which as a coach, people don't really see this too often, but luckily, I get to work with, over the year, it's over 1,000 people will be over the course of a year with everyone's clients, and you get to see these trends like in masses, which is really cool. You get to get like your own study all the time. Like if you want to look at something, we have the data there because we have the clients to kind of like look at. And one of the things that is extremely consistent is the more stressed someone is, like the harder their job is. Like, and where it started becoming apparent to me was like tax season. This is kind of funny because it happens every tax season. We have like a good number of CPAs on the team. Like we have like a few, enough to see it, right? We have like 5 or 6. And when tax season comes in and they're working really, really hard, and all of a sudden their work like tripled, they just don't make that much progress. Like you're like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, yeah, well, I'm just really busy at work. It's tax season. I'm still following everything 100%, but I'm not sleeping as good. I'm stressed more at work, whatever, right? And then you start looking at, you're like, okay, so I take that little bit of data and apply it to everyone who has stressed out job periods, right? And then every time someone's stressed at their job and they'll talk about it, oh, I have a bunch of closings this week and this and that, and then progress is like 20% of where it usually is, right? Mm-hmm. It's so common. And then you see people, I had one client a few years ago, I've talked about her once before, and she would put so much pressure on herself that she wouldn't get results. It was like every time she would be done with the show, results would just fly by. And I don't know if she was just like super, super stressed about it, like more than anyone I've ever seen. But actually, I knew her husband really well. And I told her husband, I was like, look, this is what we're going to do. I just want to test this out. We're going to prep her for like life. I'm just going to say, hey, we're prepping for life. And then one day I'm going to throw her into a show and I'm just going to tell you and you're not going to tell her. Just tell her that we're just trying to get lean enough to like get lean and just get shredded and just see how it goes. And then like 2 weeks out from the show, 10 days out from the show, we're like, hey, we're going to do the show this weekend type of thing. Just to show her, just to give her an example of, hey, it's you that's causing this, right? It works when you're not stressed about it.
Right.
And you got to just kind of relax a little bit, which is easier said than done. Right. But we did it exactly like that. Like, hey, guess what? You're 7 days out. Peak week is next week. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah. I was like, it's just, this is why I did this. And I explained it to her. And then she was like, honestly, I'm kind of mad that you did it, but I totally see that it worked. Like I totally see it was always me stopping me. And I got to figure the mental side of this out because I put so much pressure on myself that I can keep myself from getting results.
Right.
Apparently for her, I don't think that's 100% of the case, but it becomes obvious when someone's super, super nitpicky and they're like, oh, I wish I would get more results. I wish this, I wish that. And I'm like, hey, this is not a linear thing. Like if you think this is going to be linear every week, you're going to hit the perfect same numbers every single week, then you're playing the wrong game. This is not how this works.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah. So that actually worked. And after that, she kind of had a little more of a realization of it, that she was putting too much pressure on herself and to have a little more fun. And for her, what we had to do was actually make her preps more fun. We stopped doing like regular cardio. We started doing cardio kind of like you, like Orange Theory stuff. We did kickboxing with her, things like that, where it made it like more fun and more relaxed. She did yoga. Like it was things like that. So it was kind of cool. And it really did help with that. So I do think that at the end of the day, if you're having problems with that, we need to understand, hey, we're doing this as a luxury. We're doing this for fun. This should be adding enjoyment to your life. And you need to take a step back and not put so much crazy pressure on yourself.
Exactly.
Because if anything, this isn't a sport where you could just put pressure on yourself and you perform better. Like if you're playing basketball and you're like, I'm going to be the next Kobe Bryant, and you can like just keep putting pressure and be better and be better and better. If you did that in our sport, you'd be in the gym more and more and more, and you'd actually make yourself worse, not better. So like we have to find that happy medium, and this needs to never not be enjoyment. And that's what I really hate about prep for some people, is that you take something someone loves and they were really in shape when they started, and you turn it into something they hate and they can't wait to be done with it. Exactly. That's when like those people don't last,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like, everyone wants to win. It's nice. But on your first show, heck, on your first few shows, really just, I would say go into it with no expectations. Do not focus don't let your happiness be determined by a number placing, because guess what? You're new. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. I can tell you that. I still make mistakes too. It's okay. But especially in the beginning, like you're not going to come in perfect and just have this knowledge of everything you should do correctly. It's going to take some trial and error, and it might be something big, it might be something small, but you're going to make mistakes, and even more so in the beginning. So don't even put that pressure on yourself. I would say like the first few shows, just kind of use it as like a learning lesson. Learn all you can from every mistake you made. Like whether it be like, oh, I should have had my hair on this side of my shoulder instead of that. You're going to pick up on these little things. And, you know, as long as you fix them, you're going to improve, right? So I think it's important to, you know, go into it with like, hey, you know what? I'm confident. I did my best with this prep. There's nothing else I could have done. I worked so hard. Hay's in the barn. I'm going to go out there and have fun. And not that we want to make mistakes, but they're going to happen. Little mistakes, big mistakes, who knows? But just when you finish a show, no matter what place you get, just realize it's okay that you can fix, whatever you did wrong, just learn from it, fix it for next time. It was a valuable learning lesson, and try not to let it happen again. And eventually all these little learning lessons add up, and the next thing you know, you're sitting next to Adam Bonilla on this podcast as a pro. And I got this little piece of hair. It's annoying me. Anyway, yeah. So, I mean, you never know where you can end up if you don't give up. If you just learn from every mistake, it takes a lot of mental strength. And I understand that it's going to be hard to come to terms with like, I didn't do as well as I thought. Okay. I understand you're going to be frustrated and it's going to be disappointing at times, but you just got to learn and push through, because guess what? Every single girl on the Olympia stage has lost a show at some point, right? No person that's made it to Olympia has an undefeated season. So if you didn't win your show at the local level and it's one of your first shows, no one's going to remember. And at the end of the day, your family's still going to love you. Your significant other's still going to be with you. I mean, that would be messed up if they broke up because you didn't win. Your pets are still going to love you. Everything's okay. You're taking it too serious. Really, taking it way too serious.
Yeah. And you know what? I think some of the things that we need to do maybe a little bit more of is just dive into your mind a tiny bit more, because a lot of the people who watch this, I know you hate hearing it, but you're the most winning pro of all time in the sport. And I think that these lessons, when you talk about them, have more value and more weight, because you've been through it so many times. So, you've done it, and I can speak firsthand from seeing you do it. But I'm not, I don't know what's going on 100% inside your head, but I do know, like, you had one time where you posed wrong and you like kind of skipped on stage, and it like got to you so much.
I know that is one thing. If I do something stupid at this point, I do get a little hard on myself at points. So I can definitely relate to the girls, especially as rookies. Like I said, I still make mistakes. I get more down on myself if I make some stupid mistake that I could have easily fixed, rather than I didn't come in conditioned enough. Yeah. If that makes sense. I get more mad at myself, like, why did I make this stupid mistake? I should know better, rather than, oh, I just wasn't conditioned enough or something like that. Yeah. I would much rather have the feedback that, like, oh, yeah, you need to be tighter, or you need more muscle up top, rather than, if you didn't push as hard in your back pose, it would have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
An easy fixable thing for me. That's the thing. But I never let it last too long, because at the end of the day, I have it good. Oh my gosh. Everybody who steps on stage has it good, because you choose to do this. And even like, let's say even you got last place at your show or whatever, that's still better than 99.9% of the population. And they're out there even looking at your physique, wishing they could look like that. So keep that in mind. Like, realize it's such a privilege to be able to step on stage. And I always quickly remind myself when I'm down on myself for making a stupid mistake that, like, dang, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm still like living it up. I still have an awesome life, and this is still so much fun. And I wouldn't do anything else. Like, I wouldn't have my life any other way. So of course we gotta expect little road bumps and little mistakes here and there. But the bigger picture, if we're looking at the bigger picture, it's hard for me to actually lose the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I already won. Like, I already exceeded all my expectations, and then some. So it's kind of cool. I just realize how lucky I am and fortunate I am to be in the sport and have the life I live. So
yeah, I think that's good that you never lose that humility about it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way too with doing this as a job. So I'm like, you know, it's so great that we get to be able to just do that. Like, it's crazy because this is like a regular work day, and we have like, it's super fun. And anyone, you know, if they really put their mind to it and stick with it, and you know, things will come from it, whether it's in this sport or you apply it to your regular life. That's what I love. Prep, you know, there's a saying, you know, prep is life. You know, prep is life because it teaches you all things in life, like those struggles, the rewards, the staying focused on one single goal, the hiccups that you're going to have, the mistakes that you're going to make, the regrets you're going to have from those mistakes. We all have them, you know.
Right.
But one thing I've noticed with you is like, you're like, when you do make a mistake, you're like, I need to get on stage like next week.
I want to fix it ASAP. Yeah.
Like, it's funny because you fix it, you fix a mistake like you were making a piece of art and you need to immediately cover that stroke. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It's okay. It's not like how that works, but whatever. But it's so funny because you're like, no, I like owe it to myself to do another show.
Yes.
To not do that again. Because I remember that there's been a couple times that I remember it, but that really like got under your skin. And the one time was the stage was really weird.
Yeah.
Was that Clash? Was it?
Yeah. And I tried a new routine that I should have practiced it more, but yeah. That was the time that I got really down on myself. I'm like, I cannot believe it. If you don't mind, can I quickly explain?
Yeah, go ahead.
So for Clash, not this year, but last year. Last year, I didn't compete in Clash this year. Last year at the Clash show, I had a new routine I was going to do, and it was kind of like new. Like I just created it like maybe like a week ago. And I guess I wasn't as comfortable as I thought I was doing the new routine. And then, just like you said, the stage, there was unevenness. So that combined, like, it was the weirdest thing. I, like, stepped on stage, and it's almost like I blinked. Like, I forgot everything I just learned. It was the weirdest thing. It was almost like, whoa, wait a minute. What's my front pose? Oh, wait. And it looked bad. You could tell I was not my best. It was like the weirdest posing, and it was embarrassing, honestly, very embarrassing. And I got down on myself, like, how did this happen? How did I blank on stage and just like forget literally every pose in my routine? Like, you know, it looked wobbly. It looked, I almost tripped on that one part. It was bad, you know, and I was just so down. I even cried. That was like one of my cries of like, it's a rarity, but I cried because I'm like, I'm a pro. I've competed many times. How could I have allowed myself? How did this happen? It was like the first show of the year too, so I was extra nervous. I don't know what it was, but what it did do is it lit a fire underneath me, and I'm like, oh, that's not going to happen again. That is not going to happen again. No, sir. So I jumped into the first show I possibly could the week after, which I wasn't even like planning on doing, but I was like, I got to fix this. I got to correct this, and I did, and I won the next show, and then I'm like, okay, that feels better now. Okay. That's out of the way. I learned my lesson. Don't try a whole bunch of new poses all at once. So now whenever I do anything with my posing, it's like one posing tweak at a time. It's not like I'm changing the entire thing, because it's like a flashback of like, oh, what if I just forget it all again?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that's a good lesson that you learned, you know.
Absolutely.
A good lesson is one thing at a time.
One thing at a time with me, yeah.
Yeah, and a good thing is you have enough shows to do one thing at a time. It's a very justified reason to do it.
Very gradual changes.
And it's another reason why doing more shows for you might be something that you might want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, make these little micro progressions, steps, micro changes, ask the judges for more feedback.
Yeah.
But you did a really good job with dealing with that. You know, obviously you had that. I mean, it was tough the day of, right? And the day after. It was like, I don't know what I did after prejudging. Like,
what got into me?
Yeah. And I think
it's like stage fright. This is what stage fright feels like. And I don't have, I'm not great at public speaking. I have no problem, or even getting on stage, but I was just extra nervous that day. And I guess that's what people experience with stage fright. They just freeze up and they're just like, I don't.
Yeah, it's happened. I mean, you hear about it happening more often. Like every now and then, you just like some bodybuilder who's been doing it forever, and they're like, yeah, I don't know what it was. It's just like, everything just got to me. I couldn't pose right. And I'm like, and it's like, you think you almost, when you first hear it, like as a rookie, because when I first heard it, I was like, oh, come on, whoever bodybuilder you were, like you weren't the best that day, whatever. Right. But then you start seeing it and you know these guys and you start realizing, oh, like that isn't how he does it. Like it's a real thing. And even these top level guys, sometimes it happens. So your answer to that was just get out there again.
Yeah, I'm not letting that happen again. I was very determined to fix it.
And then there was another time recently where you posed kind of more straight on and you were
Yeah,
like,
that was more minor, I guess. It wasn't as big a deal. It's like completely forgetting your routine. But I was just like, yeah, because we practice, you know, and I practice a certain way how I pose in my front. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, I was posing more forward facing at the Arnold. And not that it would have made a difference, but it's just kind of like one of those things like, I should know this by now. I'm disappointed with myself, but it didn't last long, you know, maybe a day. And then I'm just like, okay, I'm back. Let's do another show. That's not going to happen again. So it's like, you know, I still make mistakes. I do. And everyone does. So
I think it's good to for people to hear that, especially the people that we're talking about that are like putting too much pressure on themselves. We just talked about them. Hearing that you make mistakes with as many shows as you do and as experienced you are, like that should be some good insight for people to be like, okay, maybe I need to relax a little bit. I'm not going to be perfect my first time.
Yeah.
And you're also doing the most subjective sport in bodybuilding, like the most subjective category in bodybuilding, you know? So, you know, that it's funny because we were talking about this earlier about the conditioning and like maybe doing a podcast on that. Cause go ahead with that.
So I don't know if the reference is right. Cause, The Price is Right. You've watched it and you know what it is, right?
Price is Right. It is the right one. Yeah.
Okay. So from what I remember of the show, which I haven't watched in a long time, you get as close as you can with the price without going over. But the minute you go over, you lose it all, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's very much in bikini. You creep up on that line of conditioning as much as you can. And then the minute you go over, you lose it all. Like, it's almost like it's better to err on the side of softness than hardness for certain competitors. Like, if you know you're walking that line a little bit too closely, you know, it's almost like falling off a ledge. You get as close as you can to that ledge. But if you go over, you fall. So I feel like that's very much like bikini too. Like, you'll get knocked down way more for being overly conditioned than soft. Overly soft.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
It's really weird too, because it's, in my opinion, how that should work is, okay, you get the girls who are perfect and for their conditioning, they should be first, right? And then the girls who went too far and worked harder and have more muscle or whatever, they should go next. And then the girls that are too soft and don't have enough muscle should go after those girls who have too much muscle and too lean. Like, I feel like that's the order, but it tends to go perfect bikini, soft and less muscular, then overly muscular and overly lean.
Yeah.
And that's the girls that have the hardest time post-show.
Yeah.
Because they do look like, and there's no argument for some of these. Even like Sandy did this thing where she compared athletes for bikini, and she does it at her workshops where she'll put up an athlete from the back and she'll say, okay, who's more bikini? And then everyone will go, oh, the girl on the left is more bikini because she's not as hard and she looks full and she looks this and that. And she's like, okay, but who's better? Who's a better athlete? Like, who's a better competitor? And it's clearly the girl on the right. It's just, so it's just an example that bikini is its own thing where you have limits, and everyone's always like, they don't know what to say to her, right? They're like, I don't know this girl, like they're always getting them all mixed up. But it's so obvious. But the girl on the right would place, 15th place, even though she's technically better than the girl than the bikini girl, right? So that's the one thing that I think contributes a lot to the attitude problem.
That will mess with your head, yeah.
Yeah, because if you just can't see bikini, but you're better than everyone,
yeah,
like you're more developed, you're leaner, like, yeah, technically, if you're just talking bodybuilding, yeah, you would be better, but it's not bodybuilding.
True.
And so, those are the girls that are like, this, I should have won, I should have this, I have better shoulders, I have better this. And I'm like, yeah, but maybe it's too much,
Yeah, so. Exactly. That's definitely a thing. Like, you see somebody like competing and that competitor's like overly conditioned in comparison to everyone else, or overly muscular, and like, I don't understand why I didn't win. I look much better. Like, I mean, not for bikini standards though. And what makes it worse is you have the friends, the family, and social media being like, you should have won. Yeah. And that gets in your head. But guess what? They're not judges, and they're going to tell you that regardless. I promise you, even if you clearly were the worst looking one that day by a lot, your mom's still going to say you should have won. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, Mom. But that's how it goes. Okay. And it's like, family bias. I get it. But you got to be honest with yourself, because that's going to get to you. Social media, they're going to get to you. They're going to say you should have won. You should have won. Your friends say it. Family says it. And then you're going to start to think, wait a minute. I should have won, shouldn't I? Yeah. And it's because they don't understand how bikini works, okay? They don't understand it. And it definitely doesn't help whenever please don't do this, guys. If you're a competitor that didn't win, please do not rant about it on social media. Please do not say you should have won. Please do not have other people around you speak for you and say you should have won and wonder why you shouldn't have won. It's tacky. It's tacky. It never comes across good, okay? Okay? it's better to be honest with yourself and get feedback from judges. And if you want to share the feedback on social media, go ahead, you know, but it's not a good look when you're salty that you didn't win and blame everything else, blame politics, blame this, blame that. Tacky, cringe times 100. Don't do it, please. Yeah. Because it never comes out good. It never looks good. You're a sore loser. It's
especially at the local level. That's the funniest one. The local level ones when there's like 500 people in a show, and then oh, it was politics because they're on a big team. They're like, oh, it's because, you know, I get that a lot. They're like, because that girl's on Adam's team. And I'm like, is it really that? Or, the judge has no idea that she's with me. You know, no idea whatsoever. Right. Like, it's so funny.
Dude, the judges have lives. They're not going to stalk the social media to see who's coaching who. And they've got lives.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, and it wouldn't matter even if they did. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's just cringe, and it just makes you look like a sore loser. Okay, you know, there's a reason why you didn't win. Find out why. Ask the judges. Get all the feedback you can. Ask your coach. Ask people that are familiar with the sport. Don't ask your friends and family.
Yeah,
they're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're not going to tell you the truth, or maybe they do think they're telling the truth, but they don't know. They don't have the eye for it.
That's the same thing as you know, you'll have a girl with a little bit of muscle on her shoulders, a little bit of arms. Like, oh, and then some random guy in the gym like, you should be doing figure. You should be doing wellness because they have a little bit of body fat on their legs. It's the same thing that the regular people don't study this and they don't know what you really should be shooting for. So that one I get the most. Well, some guy in the gym told me I should be figure, that I shouldn't even be considering bikini. And I'm like, have you seen how much bigger these girls are than you? Even right now? Or you'll get someone with the wellness one has been really confusing for a lot of people, especially in the gym. So, but yeah, so that just shows you an example of how little the general public knows. So if they're getting in your head about it, they will get in your head about it, and they can always make a justification for it, especially in bikini. Because the girl who wins, if she's muscular and lean, you know, and she fits the bikini criteria, you could always say, oh, that girl should be figure. Like, you should have won because she's way too much, right? And then if she's too, a little bit on the softer end of the bikini side, like, oh, you should have won. You're way harder than that girl. There's always just a reason that could come up with it. So I think that sets up the attitude right away going into it, just being like, hey, I just need to be better than I was the last time.
Exactly.
And get closer to that pro look.
Exactly. You know? And, you know, and it is a subjective sport, just like we're saying, in the most subjective division. And, you know, maybe this set of judges, you weren't their ideal, but you could come, you know, to a different state and maybe you're better fitting for what they want, you know, because it's opinionated. But it's just never good to whine about it publicly. If you want to rant about it, you know, if you're sitting with your friend at coffee, whatever, you know, get it off your chest. Understand. Don't do it publicly. It's not good. It's just, you're not going to improve that way because you're stubborn, and in your head, you're just thinking that you should have won. The ego, that's the ego attitude, right? Yeah. So, you know, maybe you're not happy with the results, and maybe you truly did think you should have won. But remember, it's subjective, and remember, there's always things you can improve on. Even if you win, you can still make improvements. And even when I win, I still get judges' feedback because I want to be the absolute best I can possibly be. Not just because I won, but I want to be the best moving forward because I can always fix things. I can always improve. Yeah.
You know what's funny is you talked about doing one show and maybe being too much for one, and then doing another, getting in a different area. That actually happened to one of my clients a couple weeks ago. She did one show and she won her show. Right. So she won the whole thing. She was super stoked. She was excited. And then she did the next show, and she is pushing the muscle a little bit, but we're going to nationals. Right. So she did the next show and she got worked. Right. She was like, I'm like, it was so funny. I was like, how are you even beat? How did you get beat at all? You're so good for a local level regional show, whatever, but it was a smaller show. So the first show was more bigger. It was a little regional, more regional. And then the next show was local, and she didn't even place top 5. And I was like, how? I was shocked by it. And I was like, I called her. I was like, honestly, don't let this one get you down. I honestly think the scenario is you had too much muscle for the local area. And everyone who showed up there was just lacking in the muscle department and was a little bit softer, and you're pushing a national level physique. And she was so, she was down about it because she's new. Of course, she doesn't get that. And it's hard to explain to someone, oh, you just got 6th at a local show, go to nationals, right? And she was very realistic. She's like, hey, I just got 6th at this show. Why should I go to national? So I was like, but you won the bigger show, right? So then she goes to junior nationals, junior USA is the one that just passed, and she got first call out, her first national show, top 3. So she was 2 spots away from a pro card, right? And so I'm like, just stick with it. I promise you're there. Like, it's one of these things that happens in bikini sometimes. If you're clearly the standout by too much at a local show, maybe, it was just the girls that showed up that day, and the judges couldn't decipher between all of them. Even though it sucks that it happens, the judges should be able to decipher. You're still the most looking like a pro. It's just that day was just not, honestly, it was just bad judging that day at a local level. So she went to junior, she was like, okay, but her confidence wasn't, after that show, you get beat up a little bit. And then she gets top 3 at a national level show.
Right.
It just shows you bikini's so volatile.
Yeah,
man.
it is. It's anybody's game. Really. It's anybody's game. And even for myself, like speaking from personal experiences, there's been shows where I thought I looked my best. Right. And I was like, oh, this is like, I feel like I'm bringing a really good package at the show. And then like the judges would be like, not your best. You're a little too lean or whatever. And I'd be like, oh, really? Dang it. But I feel like in my eyes, this is like my best look. But on the opposite end of things, there's been shows before where I'm just like, I've been tighter. I've been more confident about like my physique. I'm just, it's not my best look. I'm just a little softer. But then the judges loved it for whatever reason. Like, oh, this is great. So, what your best you think is sometimes doesn't line up with the judges. And, we get competitor eyes. I always call that, right? Yeah. Competitor eyes. Like when you start seeing yourself change and getting contest prep lean, you start to second guess everything. And you start to think, I'm not lean enough. Most of the time people think I'm not lean enough. And then you'll have also people that are like, I'm not full enough. So in reality, it's like, wait, take a step back. You've got the competitor eyes. Nothing you look like right now is going to be good enough in your opinion. So like, it's good to have that second opinion with your coach and to have that talk, like, because I still second guess myself a lot too. Like, I don't think I'm lean enough. And then Adam's like, no, you're right on track. So sometimes we have the same, like, oh yeah, we're ready. Like,
sometimes it's scenario based too, which gets real advanced.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of strategic stuff going on that you don't realize, especially as a pro. A lot of strategy. That's where it gets pretty hard. Yeah, location, timing of like even jet lag.
Yeah, humidity.
Yeah. Who are you going against? How many? Who's like judging? Like all that stuff. So like it's a lot of factors.
We've been nailing it recently though. We've been doing pretty good. Like because there's a couple of times where you're like, I think I'm a little soft. I'm like, no, you're full. We need it against this girl or whatever, and then you ended up winning, and it was like those ones are fun because they're risky. They're risky, and it's like, oh, I hope that's the right decision.
That girl has awesome shoulders, and my shoulders are gonna look so small compared to her. So I'm just going to train shoulders this week. Like, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. It's like little things here and there.
It's pretty fun. It makes it more fun though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing of this episode is, it kind of comes up the consensus of it is like, don't take it too seriously. Understand it's volatile. Go into the post show with the right attitude because that's going to dictate your future success, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
And learn.
Learn from the process. Learn from every mistake. Don't let it happen again. And just, like I said, especially in the beginning, do not focus on a number placement to determine your happiness. It's awesome to win. That's icing on the cake if you win. But don't let that affect you regardless.
Yeah, it really should be okay, I'm standing next to someone now. Let's get the real data back, right? Yeah. Because when you're in front of your coach by yourself and you're sending in your check-in pictures and there's no reference of other people around you of how much bigger they are, how much harder they are than you, all this. When your coach gets the pictures back and we see your placement of how you placed and we see like, okay, she's got 4th place and the girls next to her in that lineup was clearly bigger than her. We could look the pictures up online. We look. And then we're like, okay, you need a lot more size than it looked like, in your pictures. So let's take off 4 months and come up with a plan after that, that type of thing. The problem is girls put so much into that first show. They'll put so much into it. Like if I don't win, it's like life is over, and then after that, it's just freedom. There's nothing there. And then they go backwards, like especially after the first one, they go backwards instantly after that show, eating everything, not working out as much, not having a focus goal. So it's not that your prep is over. It's just that the prep has changed, and that's the right attitude. So the prep went from doing this show to now the next prep right after the show is correcting metabolism, getting your hormones optimal again, making the improvements in the areas of your physique that needed improvements versus who you were standing against to next time. How am I getting one day closer to the Olympia stage? how am I getting one day closer every single day I have available, but then also having fun with it, at the same time. So it's definitely a difficult balance, but the people who excel are the ones with the more real attitude, the more realistic off seasons, the ones who are taking it serious day by day and still like enjoying it, So
Yeah.
I don't know how you've been able to really maintain that. So the thing is too, I think that because you've been able to maintain the fun in it, that it's been able to get more serious and more rigid without it feeling like it's so much more, so much more rigid and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing that we run into with you all the time is everyone's like, oh, she's just a robot. And she's just a robot at this stage, right? I'm like, well, I remember, a few years ago when we were competing, you were having cheat meals post-show and stuff. We were doing it. We were on cheesecakes and having burgers, and we're doing those
mini
things.
burgers.
Yeah, I remember that. And like we were doing those things, and then it just like slowly evolved and slowly got more like, hey, I just don't even care anymore. Yeah. And it turns into that, and people don't get that too, because it's funny. This weekend I was obviously at Disneyland, and I was with Kimber, and her sister was there, and she was like, yeah, she's like, it's just how you eat is so rigid. And I was like, is it really? Like, I don't really see it that way. She's like, yeah, I couldn't like do that because it just seems so extreme. Mm-hmm. But to me, I'm like, I feel like I'm not that extreme. I eat clean like 90% of the time. I have a fry here and there.
A fry.
Just one. Well, like I have enough to I'm happy with it. Like, so I had a burger and fries, but I only had like half of them. Like when we're at Cheesecake Factory, like the day after, but I only had half of them, but I felt fine. I was like, I don't feel like I'm sacrificing, But I think that it's because I've done it for so long, like since I was a kid, that to me, it's like, that's all I need. And it gets less rigid. So I think the more you stick to it, the more the attitude you have along with this, that it just naturally progresses to being more, for the sport, but doesn't feel like the sacrifice is there as much either. Right. I don't know. At least that's how I see it, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think as you compete more and more, and the more you love it, it just kind of like, I always joke and say, this W tastes better than a burger ever could. I don't even need to go out right now. You know what I mean? Because I'm like so excited or whatever. So like, I always keep that in mind too. Like what tastes better? So I'd much rather meet my goals like long term, but I just don't have the desire to go crazy. And, sometimes I'll get a little wild and have some croutons on my salad.
It's a Wild West day, man.
Oh my God. Remember what I was craving after the Olympia? And this is rare for me to crave things like this. Do you remember? This is a test on your memory. And I kept talking about it all day. And I just wanted one of them.
I know we had a strawberry ice cream, like 2 bites. You had 2 bites and then
that wasn't what I was
craving. That wasn't, I don't remember. Oh, was it croutons? No?
No, but
you did have croutons on that salad, though. You had like a couple. I don't remember. I remember what you ate, but I don't remember what you were craving.
One dinner roll.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted one dinner roll. That was it. But I was good after.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's good.
But I think I think when people see that, they think you're a robot, right? But they don't see that it progressed to that stage. Because we said that in one episode, and then I was like, yeah, she is kind of, right? I get it. And then, it's people, it's funny because people they'll talk to me with like concern. They'll be like, you think she's okay? Like she's not eating like this.
Are you okay?
Yeah. And then I'm like, no. They're like, well, you think it's disordered eating or this? I was like, no.
What a weird thing to say. That's projection at the max.
Right? So people will ask that from me, right, too. But I'm like, but I've been doing that since I was like a kid. So do I have? And then I was like thinking, no, it didn't start that way. She progressed to that. So it's like, it's almost like its own, like bodybuilding. You build muscle. Yeah. And like with dieting for bodybuilding, you build adherence muscles, right? Like you just start getting better. And then you get to this stage, because people say it to me my whole life. They've been saying it. Oh, just have a drink. Oh, just have a piece of cake. Oh, just have this. But I'm like, I don't even see it. I don't see it as I want it, and I'm not giving it to myself. And I'm like, I'm sacrificing. I'm like, oh, poor me. I just can't eat it because I'm so I want to be lean and healthy, right? I just see it as I kind of don't even really want it. And like once a year, maybe I'll have a couple pieces, and I'm like totally fine with that. But it's funny, it's like you just build that muscle up too. And I think that having the right attitude, right, because of what your goals are, will kind of set your attitude and set your path eventually, that it kind of does that. And I think it's important because we both kind of did that. Like, it's funny. It's fun because I could look back when people say that. I started looking back at it when we talked about it one time.
Well, let me clarify, guys. I'm not diet obsessed, and I am not as accurate as I ever should be. I am not, precise. I don't
Yeah, you eyeball your meat.
I eyeball your
veggies.
I always, like, I say this and people think I'm joking, but I'm not joking. Like, my batteries have been dead in my scale for my food since 2018. I'm just like, good enough. I'll have nibbles here and there. I'm not like, oh my God, it's 3:00. I got to have my chicken, my boiled chicken and steamed broccoli. It's not like that at all. Actually, if I'm honest, I'm probably the least, not least, I shouldn't say that because I don't like, it's not like I go out and binge or anything, but I shouldn't say least at all, but you would expect me to be more
rigid,
precise and rigid.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm like, I could eat right now. Okay. Or,
yeah.
I'm hungry. Whatever.
You've got a very good eye for it. I will say that.
And I would never recommend that on any of my clients. It's kind of like a little bit of an intuitive eating, but a little bit.
I've seen I've lived with you for like 6 months at points, considering like how many times we spent together. And every time I would see your food, I'd be like, no, that's 4 ounces for sure. Like it might be 3.8 or 4.2, but it's like right there. Like I think it's just because you've done it for so many years, you can see.
So don't do what I do, but it works for me. So
yeah, it probably feels a little bit less like rigid too, because you're not bringing out a scale.
Because I honestly don't think I could keep this up that long if I was like that obsessed with numbers and macros and like, oh my God, I went over by 5 macros on my broccoli. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about going over on my veggies. Whatever, that's just my approach to it. But again, don't do what I do, especially if I think I earned that though, because I stay this way. So I'm more like maintaining. It would be a different scenario if I had to cut. And I will be more strict if I know that I'm not lean enough for a show. But okay, time to like really be careful. But like, I'm way more easygoing.
Yeah, and it's pretty.
What people think
the formats when you're this lean, it stays pretty easy too, because it's like she'll check in and be a little soft. All right, this week we're going to cut the carbs. We're just going to have them post and pre, and then that's it. And then you just kind of eyeball. Yeah, and it's like the same amounts though, so it's pretty easy that way. Yeah, but
I just had to clarify because people be thinking like I'm living this like super like my God, like
they don't see it. Yeah, they don't know. Well, they just hear it. They just hear that you stick to your diet, you stay lean all year, so that because they want to eat a lot of foods, they feel like you're like killing yourself to do it. And I'm
I'm not.
And I'm like, no, you guys don't get it. It's like, it's pretty normal. It's just, it's weird because if it was in the old, like if you look at, this is where it really gets me it kind of weirds me out, because if you were talking about 100 years ago, everyone was eating the same.
Yeah.
Right. But no one was like felt deprived. So no one was like, oh, you're not having this, you're not having that, because they weren't available. Right. But no one felt bad for those people. Right. No one's like, I can't believe they never had any cheese, but they didn't have any cheeseburgers. They didn't have any, Fritos or whatever. Like they didn't have any of this. Like, it's funny because like everyone had the same thing based on their area, their geographical location. They were eating different foods. And now that we have so many foods available, now if you're not eating them, like you're like, poor you, like you're sacrificing so much. I'm like, no, we have so much available to us that everything tastes good without the calories.
There's like, a healthier alternative out there for everything, almost everything.
You know what I had yesterday? Sugar-free Jell-O parfaits at those grocery stores.
See, that's something I would do.
And I'm like, see, I didn't have the cake.
I love those. Oh, the ones that have the little creamies in them?
Yeah.
I buy those on a weekly basis.
Yeah. See,
I go through those. I use those.
I didn't have the cake, but I don't feel deprived. I don't know.
It's good. And like cookies and stuff, they're protein cookies. Like, call me crazy, but those protein cookies are fire, man. I'm like, oh, so good. Like the Quest cookies,
I actually like them better than regular ones.
I do cookies. Too. Yeah. Like there's like, it's crazy in 2022. You can eat so healthy, but you think you're eating bad, but you're not. And I love me some protein. I'm a protein bar connoisseur. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love my sugar-free drinks and my Diet Cokes. And my Diet Root Beer is my favorite beverage, though. But that's harder to find after a show. Usually there's Diet Cokes everywhere. And I like peanut butter, I like almond butter, all that good stuff, too. So, like, I don't know.
But I think it's just people understand, like, in terms of attitude and post-show and attitude of the show, like a lot of that, just having the right attitude sets that up, and it just sets your trajectory up to be, more adherent to your diet when you're feeling better about it and your expectations are the right way. And I think that that's something that you've developed over years, which has gotten you here. But yes, I do get those occasional. Poor Ashley, like, is she like
poor Ashley? Well, they living her best life. Oh, you poor thing.
Well, sometimes it's funny because they'll kind of like, I'm the coach, right? So they'll kind of be like, why do you do that to her, type of thing.
What a weird thing to say.
It comes up once in a while. Usually it's like a DM
what a weirdo, man.
YouTube or something like that. Like someone will say something, but it's funny because I'm like, these people really think And
I would love to ask them about their lives.
Yeah.
Like, are you sure you're happy?
Yeah, that's what they...
Oh, my God. You look so stressed. Oh, my gosh. You mean to tell me you have a 9 to 5? Oh, God. Not a 9 to 5. Oh, no. Oh, you poor thing. Are you okay? Oh, that must be... Oh,
that's basically exactly how it goes.
Must be tough, man. You got a 9 to 5. Oh, my... You got responsibilities. You got to go to work on Monday. Oh, man, that sucks so bad. You poor thing.
That's how it goes. Yeah, people think you're so like in a box. Like I make you do all these shows sometimes. It's pretty funny. But like I'm like, no, she just mostly just tells me what show she's doing. It's so funny.
I choose everything. No one's forcing me. And believe me, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't love it.
Yeah.
Like
it's pretty funny.
No one's forcing me. I'm not doing it for money either.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it because I love it.
I say the saying is when they're not talking about you is when the real problem is. That's how it goes. But yeah, so proper attitude. Anything else? Any other tips on proper attitude stuff? What do you think, Ash? Should we cover it pretty good?
I think we did. I think we did. Do you have any questions that came through on the?
Yeah, any questions came through? No, I had one good comment. Someone said, it's all about the ego. Drop the ego and just enjoy everything.
Drop the ego. That is perfectly stated. Drop the ego. Really, you especially in a sport like this. It's probably not smart to be cocky and arrogant, it's a subjective sport. And, I say this many times, I never go into a show expecting to win because I realize it's kind of like if you go into a show expecting to win and you don't win, it's a disappointment and you're going to get discouraged. Okay. If you go into a show not expecting to win and you do win, it's a surprise. And it's fun. It's like exciting. Because if you go into a show expecting win and you do win, like that's great. But you're probably just like, well, I already knew I was going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to have like a element of surprise, right? So I never go into a show being like, yeah, I'm going to win. You'll not find any interview where I say, yeah, I'm going to win this next show. Never. Because I realize it's stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid. And it messes up with your mental attitude after, regardless. So I just say, go in with no expectations, do the best you can, be confident, like I did everything I can and be happy with like, this is a great package. Because there's been shows before that I didn't win, but I was like, I feel like I look great. This is amazing. Like I made improvements. Oh my gosh, my glutes look so much better for the show. I'm so proud of myself, even though I didn't win. Like this is amazing. Like, so you gotta take a look and see like what victories came about your show, even if it wasn't a number placing on stage. Like, did you make improvements? Did you have a good time? Did you learn something? Those can also be like little victories, even though you didn't take home the winning trophy, right? So, yes, drop the ego, basically.
It's fun. No, I think so too. I think that it sets it up. And you look kind of foolish if you lose when you say you're going to win, right?
Guys do that a lot, though. Guys do it a lot. I mean, but to be fair, in bodybuilding, it's more predictable.
Yeah.
In bikini, it's not as predictable.
Yeah. But
I don't think many girls do that, but they think that. They will think it. They won't say it.
See it. I saw it once in a fight, and it was really funny. It was like the best fight, one of the best fight interviews. And this guy, it was, typical fight interview. The one guy's like, oh, I'm going to kill him, right? All this. And then the guy, they go to him because they're trying to hype up the fight. And he's like, I don't really need to say who's gonna win. You guys are gonna find out. he's like, we're already fighting. So I don't need to get him mad to fight me. We're already fighting. It's done. It's gonna happen.
See, that's different though, because that's like a contact sport to where you can kind of control the outcome in a sense.
Yeah.
But when you step on stage in bikini, it's like Hayes in the barn. What's done is done. Yeah. So whatever I'm bringing is the best I can do. The only thing you can do, posing, you can adjust, obviously, but still, it's just not the same. And I always say, unlike maybe a race, say in track, you're yeah, my PR is 2 seconds faster than this girl. Then, be like, okay, I feel like I can say I'm going to win or whatever. You can control the outcome a lot more in that scenario than you can in a subjective sport. Subjective sport, man.
Yeah.
You signed up for this life. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's great. And I'm glad that you do these podcasts too, because it gives people a good insight into what they should expect and how they should act. Because you're kind of, you've been doing this and you're the most winning of all time. And I'm glad that you can kind of open that up once in a while and give people advice on that. I think it has weight when you do it, so it's good. I learned from it too, because, I want to make the next Ashley Cotwasser as well as work with the current Ashley Cotwasser, right? That type of thing. So it's hey, remember these lessons from everyone, put them in your bank. Don't take it too serious. drop the ego, just like Mike Tyson too. That's another, I love when people talk about that because that's like a Mike Tyson thing, and even him, I just love him because he talks about the ego so much, controlling him and his attitude and all this stuff. So if you guys want to dive into that, you should look it up on YouTube. But okay, that's it. I think you got it covered, Ash. I think a great job. You're a great ambassador for the sport. I love that you do these things.
Shucks. Well, thank you.
Everyone learns from it.
I try to share my knowledge of what I've competed in a few shows, so I think I'm pretty solid person to talk about this stuff. You know
what? We have one more question that just came in. And we should talk about it real quick because it's about the attitude before the show, right? How do you calm yourself before you get on stage and like having the proper attitude going on to the stage, right?
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. I always like to say it's okay to be a little bit nervous. You know why? Because when you're nervous, it means you care. Because if you didn't care, you'd be like, whatever, just get this over with. You're not going to get nervous. But to get nervous means something to you. So that's okay to have some nerves on stage, but you got to learn how to control them. But realize I still get nervous too a little bit, even at, any show, any particular show, I get kind of nervous sometimes, So I just got to remember, I'm changing this nervous energy to excitement, right? I know it sounds kind of silly, but just be like, yeah, I'm nervous, but you know what? I'm turning these nerves into excitement. And I want to show the judges on stage how much I want to be here. Just have the time of your life. Even if it's just you're on stage for just a few minutes, make it the funnest few minutes of your life and show the judges, I'm having fun with this, right? So, if you stutter a little bit on your pose, like no big deal. As long as you don't make it a big deal, the judges probably won't even notice. Yeah. But I just want you guys to have fun with it. It sounds so cliche, but just have fun. It's not that serious. Even for me to say it, I have to remind myself sometimes, it's not that serious. Everyone in your life is still going to love you afterwards regardless. So,
I like that you say that because it's another boxing thing. And, Cus D'Amato, I talk about him a lot. He was Mike Tyson's coach. And that was something that he would say a lot too, was exactly that.
What did he say?
Well, it was one step farther because boxing is more, you get more frightened, and Mike Tyson, that was something that he would do is he would get so afraid of fights that he would like leave sometimes the whole stadium, be like, I'm not fighting. No one knew that about Mike Tyson. He's such a killer, right? You'd be like, how would he ever be afraid of, like, that guy would fight a bear, right? But he would get afraid, and then Cus D'Amato would say, it's good that you're afraid. He's like, you don't understand, like, fear is the best, one of the best emotions you can have, because fear is what's kept everyone alive. It's what keeps you from jumping off the cliff. Keeps you from jumping in a fire when we didn't have common sense. He's like, fear has always been there as a kind of it kind of guides you to safety and from taking too much risk. Is why you become afraid when you're going 200 miles per hour versus going 40 miles per hour when you're not afraid. He's like, it kind of guides you to the right direction. So I think the same thing with having nerves to a lesser degree of fear, having nerves is the same thing. It means you care about this a lot. It means that, you want to do this right, and you want to, it means a lot to you, and it's going to kind of guide you in the right way too. So I think that's a pretty cool simile right there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, anyway, cool stuff, Ash. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for the questions and for following along. We appreciate it. And we will talk to you next time.